Good evening, everyone. I call this regular council meeting Monday, November the 20th, 2023, 7 p.m. to order and to acknowledge we are on the traditional territory of the Stahelas. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is introduction of late items.
Any late items? Seeing none, next order, please.
The next order of business is approval of the agenda.
Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Passio, seconded by Councillor Vidal. Discussion? Councillor.
Sure, thank you. I would like removed from the agenda. Under new business, item A and item B. I find these two are very accusatory and defamatory. Serve no purpose except to inflame and divide this council. Last week, I asked you to apologize for intimidating that I was doing something illegal. And now in here is suggestion I may be the mole. Neither of these are the truth. These should not be on this council. If you have a problem, or the gentleman to my right does, you should deal with that like I have. I have one right here from the gentleman right here where he says, I gave Jerry Van Wolf $600,000. I've never had $600,000 in my life. I wouldn't be here if I had it. I'll be on some island. And here's what he said. Now,
Councillor,
no, just a second. Keep quiet.
Order.
I sucked this up my whole time here.
Order. So, Councillor Jackson, so you have an amendment on the table to remove, excuse me, items.
I have a motion.
14A and B, is that correct?
Yes, I have a motion on the table to remove those two items from the agenda.
I'll second the motion, Mayor Wood.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. There is no A and B on this agenda. What is he talking about? I need clarification.
Look, new business.
14 is new business.
So what is he talking about?
14A and 14B. There's a motion on the table.
He didn't say 14. He just said A and B. So thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. So it was moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Facio. Discussion? Councillor Allen.
I'll defer to Councillor Facio, the seconder of the motion, to speak first, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Just to follow up on Councillor Jackson's comments there, I feel offended myself with the comments that were made in this and these whereases as well. I'm very disturbed that those comments will be put on a public document. Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Mr. Mayor, it would be possible, I suppose, if the three other councillors find that particular whereas in your motion to be offensive, for you to withdraw that part of your motion. But my main concern is the precedent that is being set here. Every elected council member has the right to put an issue before the council for their consideration. And I have done that. And I believe that I've followed the proper process in doing that. I've given notice of motion so that everybody had lots of time to consider what it was that I was putting before council. And I consider that my resolution, which is 14B, regarding the letter from the poison pen letter from the mole, is perfectly in order, and it should be discussed by council, and it should be condemned. The letter itself and the writer should be condemned by council in the public interest. Councillor Jackson's motion actually ought not to have been a motion to dismiss both resolutions. I believe that each resolution should have been dealt with separately. And I object to the precedent being set here, because what it means is that I, as an elected councillor, if I wish to put any issue before the council properly by serving notice of motion, not a last minute motion or an addition to the agenda or a late item, but well in advance, if I, as a councillor, take the time and trouble to do that, I believe that council has the responsibility to consider my motion. And I also believe that the council, if they reject the motion, the two motions as proposed by Councillor Jackson, are setting a precedent that says that you and I are really redundant as councillors and as mayor, because at any time that they want to, they can stop us from having any input into this council. And I think that's very undemocratic. We both have a constituency of people who expect us to do a job here. We're trying to do the job, and we ought not to be prevented from doing our job by a motion like the one on the table. So I'll be voting against the motion, Mr. Mayor, and I would urge the other councillors to think carefully about the precedent they're setting in denying properly elected members of council to put issues before the council for consideration. Thank you.
Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I am 100% in support of Councillor Jackson's motion to amend the agenda. And I take personal exception to the opinion that was stated in that resolution on the identity of the individual who authored the letter. To make these kinds of assumptions on the identity is troubling and frankly could be viewed as antagonistic. I am 100% in disagreement with bringing this with this resolution. And in my opinion, this is definitely not a council issue. And if the two individuals choose to pursue some kind of an outcome, I would suggest that be directed towards the RCMP or through civil legal means. Using village funds for this concern is not appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I'm going to respond to your motion, Councillor Jackson. We all, as council members, other than Councillor Allen, know very well that the mole exists within this council or a previous council member. That's not debatable. That's a fact.
It's not a fact.
You're out of order, sir.
No,
I'm
sir,
speaking.
you are.
I am speaking. You're out of order. You're out of order, Councillor, please. Council knows that. Councillor trying to go around, they don't want to see that investigation. If they had nothing to do with it, well, what's wrong with an investigation? If council wishes to not want to use public monies for the investigation, I am willing to personally put up a $5,000 reward to find that mole. Order, please. Order, please. For council to remove this, will they knowingly know what they know is wrong? A letter like this does this village no good. That is shameful for the level that that person went to. What happened in 1996, 28 years ago in my life, to be brought up in the public is absolutely shameful, disrespectful for anyone that is dealing with mental illness. The stigma of mental illness must stop. And for this council to not let this proceed, I just don't have words. I'm speechless on it. Order, please. No further discussion. I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the amendment?
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, could you restate the motion so we're clear what we're voting on here?
We're voting on the amendment to remove item 14A and B from the agenda. I call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Amendment passes with the mayor and Councillor Allen opposed. So we're back to the approval of the agenda as amended. Do I have a mover? Sorry, that was already moved and seconded, moved by Councillor Passio, seconded by Councillor Vidal, I believe. Any further discussion on the approval of the agenda as amended? I'm going to continue. For this council to take this mole letter and let this be distributed throughout this village is an absolute disgrace. Every one of you should be shameful of your actions. How any one of you can sit here tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor
I've
Jackson.
had over 200 of these letters, over 200 of them, attacking me, everything that I've done in this community for 9 years. I never made an issue of it. I sucked it up. That's just part of the game that we are unfortunately involved in. So don't moralize,
Order, please.
please don't moralize to me.
Councillor Jackson, let me make it clear to you. A mental illness comes with a huge stigma. It is a difficult disease and illness to deal with on its own. This is not about a hate letter. This is about a human being. This is life. This is an illness which affects hundreds of thousands of people. Smart people, dumb people, rich people, poor people. It can affect absolutely anyone. This has nothing to do with a hate letter. How you can even come close to something like that, I just can't get my head around. Councillor Allen, did you have your?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'm highly offended by the fact that my 3 fellow councillors are refusing to condemn the poison pen letter of the mole and all that it contained. And I think that the proper thing to do when this happens is for us as a council to condemn this type of gutter politics and to condemn the person who writes and circulates the letter. And if you don't condemn it, the only conclusion that people can draw is that you are in fact endorsing it and condoning it and supporting it. And I think that's highly offensive. Thank you. Well, I
Councillor
mean, it's
Vidal.
offensive to me. It should be offensive to everybody in civilized society. Thank you.
Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I am not condemning or supporting the letter. I just want to emphasize the point I made previously, that in my opinion, this is not a council issue. That should the 2 individuals wish to pursue it further, then I would suggest they go through the RCMP or through civil litigation. I do not feel that this warrants the use of village funds. Thank you.
I'm going to respond to that. Councillor Vidal, I have offered a $5,000 reward that I will pay personally for the writer of this mole letter. This mole is very highly likely to be a member of this council or previous council member. For us to say that that is not business of this village, this is crucial village business. I strongly disagree with you. Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. First of all, with the greatest respect for what you've mentioned in regards to mental illness. It is a disease, it's a terrible thing. I've had to deal with it in my family. But we're not here this evening to discuss that. You keep making the comments that it could be one of us here or previous councillors. Well, I think that's a very bold statement to make. And it could be taken in another context. And it may need more than $5,000 to deal with it, because you're making an accusation here without any grounds for it. And as Councillor Vidal has just said, this is something that should have been dealt outside of a council table. I mean, I've had since 1993, I've had hundreds of letters from a former mayor and councillor who's sitting here this evening that's accused me of everything from the sun going pink to the water going brown and everything else about me, my family and my children.
Mr. Mayor.
And it's been
on a point of order.
absolutely deplorable, which is what I've had to put up with for 25 years.
Order. For Councillor Facio to once again associate the stigma of a mental illness with a hate letter, with somebody's comment. Grow up.
Excuse me, sir.
Grow up.
Excuse me, you're talking to me. Have some respect.
Let's pay some respect, sir.
Please have some respect at this table and for myself. You don't have to shout.
Order.
Don't shout at me.
Order, Councillor. Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to point out that while we are all members of council, only the mayor is an officer of the municipality. And as an officer, he has full-time daily responsibilities for the administration of the village. I believe that that puts him into the category of a staff member that deserves protection. And under the provincial legislation, we as employers are required to protect our staff from this type of scurrilous attack. And for that reason alone, we should be taking action as a council to root out the mole, and a mole, as you well know, is an insider, to root out the mole and to put a stop to this
Order, please.
behavior. And I think it's our legal responsibility as employers, of yourself as our chief executive officer, to take the appropriate action, launch an investigation, find the mole, and stop this from happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Order, please. Order, please. I'm going to continue on that, and Councillor Allen raises a great point. There's a lot of things in that mole letter, and yes, there was attacks on myself. Yes, there were some attacks on Councillor Allen, but there was also attacks on village staff. So village staff, whether they work here now or don't work here now, don't need to keep reading stuff in the paper. They don't need to have mole letters coming out with defamatory comments that they were suspended, or they were either had been dismissed for insubordination. All of these allegations come up in the social media now. You have individuals who retired. You have one individual who resigned. For that individual who resigned, every time somebody puts in that individual's name, all of this stuff comes up. That affects this person's life from this day forth. We as a council have a responsibility to respect all of our employees, present and past, and we can't let this type of behavior go on. This needs to be investigated. We have a duty. We have a duty to this, to the staff that we have here tonight. As I said previous, and I'll say it again, in 2015, the chief administrative officer resigned. The chief financial officer resigned. The operations manager resigned. The community services manager resigned. It was all within a year of the council being in place. So this is a normal occurrence that happens in this village. People move on, they retire, they quit for whatever reason. Since 2015, we have had, according to the BC Civic webpage, 31 postings for positions in this village. That's an average of 4 or 5 per year, every year. This village has a very difficult time keeping and retaining its employees. It's very difficult for them to have to sit here today and be part of what they're listening to today. We as council and as mayor, we have a responsibility to ensure that when they leave this village, their name isn't dragged through the mud. Their name must be protected. We have that responsibility. To get that involves the investigation to find who this mole is and hold this person accountable. I will add that the RCMP do have a file open on this issue, the mole letter, and they do have a file open on an assault against the mayor. And they also do have a file open on what I perceive to be a death threat against the mayor. All of this has happened in the last few weeks. So the tone in this village here now is got to a level that it needs to be brought under control. For this council to think that it's going to disappear on its own, I have to ask again, we need to take this seriously. This council needs to look at getting investigation and charges, if necessary, to whoever this mole is. We know it's very highly likely that it is an individual of this council or previous council member. That's a fact. Councillor,
Please go on. Could we,
Councillor, order, please.
Mr. Mayor, could we please
Order,
go on
please.
with the agenda, please? We have a
Councillor,
meeting to conduct. Would you please conduct the meeting?
order,
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you. So we're back to approval of the agenda as amended. So it was moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Vidal. Further discussion, ready to call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Approval of the agenda as amended passes with the mayor and Councillor Allen opposed. Next order of business, please.
Next order of business is adoption of council minutes.
Thank you. So that number A, that the special council meeting minutes of November the 1st, 2023 be adopted. Do I have a move? Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. The next is item B, that the special pre-closed council meeting minutes of November the 6th, 2023 be adopted. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Vidal. Errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? I'm going to recall that one. All in favor? Nobody's opposed. Motion passes unanimously. Next next item C is C, that the committee of the whole meeting minutes of November the 7th, 2023 be adopted. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Errors or omissions? Being none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor, I'm going to call that one again. Councillor Jackson, I wasn't sure your hand. So this is again for the approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes of November the 7th. All those in favor? Nobody's opposed, passes unanimously. And then item D, that the regular council meeting minutes of November the 8th, 2023 be adopted. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Nobody is opposed, passes unanimously. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is business arising from the minutes.
Do you have any business arising from the minutes? I have one here to start on page 10. The very bottom of the page. And it was moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Allen. And that's that an arborist report of the 4 oak trees on Littlewood Avenue be received so that it can be released to the public. Can the Chief Administrative Officer advise to me when that report will be released to the public?
Copies are available at the front counter.
Thank you. I have questions. Sorry, last business on it was the item B, the special pre-closed council meeting minutes of November the 6th, 2023. So my question to the Chief Administrative Officer is that there was 2 reasons under the charter of why that why it was proceeded into a closed meeting. Can you confirm that in fact that there was no additional items discussed that were not under those sections in the charter?
I can confirm that your request has been accepted and your request is being dealt with as we speak.
That's the investigation. Thank you. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is consent agenda, and there are no items for that one. After that, it's delegations and petitions, and again, none tonight. The next item then is correspondence.
Thank you. So we have 3 letters, and I'm not going to read them out. I'm just going to group them. Going to group those together. Can I have a motion then for receipt of letters A, B, and C? Moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion on those? She's just for receipt. Call the question. All in favor? Nobody's opposed. Receipt passes unanimously. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is business arising from correspondence.
Is there any business arising? Councillor Facio?
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Page 15. The correspondence from Minister Bruce Ralston, and this was, I want to thank him for the reply. This was in regards to our delegation of the three councillors that were at UBCM in regards to the funding for fuel clearing, and we did get information which we are seeking tonight, I believe, the funding for that, and also the communication with the forestry manager in Chilliwack as well, Mike Peters. So I just want to thank him for the letter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further business from the correspondence? Seeing none, next order of business, please.
The next order of business is reports of councillors, committees, committee of the whole, and commissions.
Thank you. Can I start with Councillor Vidal, please?
Thank you, Mayor Wood. On November 11th, I attended the Remembrance Day ceremonies at the Agassiz Cenotaph. I want to thank the Legion for their program. It was a very, very good ceremony. I was pleased to see Mayor Wood laying a wreath on behalf of the village. On November 14th, I attended a meeting with Lower Mainland Local Government Association Senior Executive. Councillor Facio also attended. And we met with both the general manager and the marketing manager at the resort. And we entered into some discussions on the 2025 Lower Mainland Local Government Association Conference. On November 18th, I attended the Lights by the Lake opening ceremonies. And I believe it was probably one of the largest attendances in recent years. It was an absolute wonderful event. And I certainly want to thank tourism and all of the sponsors and the volunteers for their outstanding efforts. And this morning I attended a closed council meeting with Stehalis. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Allen.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor, except I attended the opening of the Lights on the Lake and another couple of community events, and look forward to attending many more, including some in this hall over the Christmas season. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Jackson.
For me, every day is Remembrance Day. I had many people involved in the Second and First World War, so I do a little bit every day, and I did remember it the way I usually do. I attended the Stehalis meeting, which I found very good, very positive vibes coming from them, much appreciated. And and Tourism Harrison, of course, came through again, which is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Facio.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Just got some reports here. First of all, I was just back onto the Remembrance Day. It was a great ceremony and the weather held off for us very nicely. Always great to see the parade and the laying of the wreaths. And God bless them all who've fought in those battles and never came home. The 18th, I attended, like all of us did here, the event to the Festival of the Lights, and of course the fireworks display. A great turnout. I served over 1,000 hot chocolate, cups of hot chocolate at the plaza. Estimation was total that evening was about 5,000 people. The beach was just like July 1st, full of people for the fireworks. It was a lot of visitors. It wasn't just the locals. What I could see are most of the eateries in the village. They were queuing up to get in later in the evening. So that was a great event, and a great thank you to our crew, Tourism Harrison, our volunteers, and of course the sponsors for an outstanding event. At the 16th of November, via Zoom, I attended the Healthy Communities meeting. Our Manager of Community Services, Christy Evans, was on there as well. There were about 10 members of Fraser Health that were in attendance, and basically the coverage was to do with the youth committee. There was no report on that. Food security, Earthwise made a report on the amount of donations that they were putting out. Child and youth was another one where they're doing a great job in trying to help the families in this age that we're living now with our youth, and the need that they need as well. Inclusion and belonging is where they have the mobile unit where they do a lot of the indigenous communities and the other communities. They do 4 events a day, and they also come to your home to administer the vaccines and help with assisted living as well. There was also another education awareness health workshops on gambling and the support that's there for them if they so need it. I did bring up that the Healthy Community started many years ago with a a well-known doctor who's not with us anymore, Dr. Lachlan McIntosh, who originally got Healthy Communities going, and it's become a great success. There's going to be vaccine clinics, but you need appointments November 17, 29th, and 24th in Agassiz, and it's mostly for the young children. Since the pandemic, COVID, education has really improved. How the parents now are getting more children vaccinated, which is very good. And the 12 years and up are requested to go to the pharmacies for their shots as well. On the regional district side, I have a report regarding the air quality. And it's good to know that in our area, there's 6 air quality stations from Abbotsford Airport to the Hope Station. And our one in Agassiz is located at the Centennial Park, which is quite close to the City Hall, 1 kilometer west of what it used to be its current location in the City Hall. So that's for air quality. The other report was regarding the BC Air Access Program. What's it going to do with us? Well, it became a very reliable source when the wildfire season and also through atmospheric river in Hope. This is referring to the air park in Hope, where they're going to put in a new system and applying for a grant of $150,000 towards that. So that was a great asset that was there during those bad times. Parks and facilities closure policy. Just to let you know that the regional district, in response to climate change and the increase in wildfire presence in British Columbia over the past several years, this section of policy has been updated. While there is no smoking or campfires permitted in FVRD parks, the FVRD monitors wildfire risk by following restrictions, guidelines, and closures as set out by the BC Wildfire Service and liaising with local fire departments to determine any closures or restrictions. So that was from them. And I think there was one more, if I can find it. And in regards to the request for access to records under the Freedom of Information Protection, as a result of legislative changes, local governments now have the ability to implement a $10 application fee for each FOI request. Between January the 1st, and this is referring to the regional district, between January 1st and October 11th of this year, the FVRD processed 61 FOI requests. Projected out to the end of the year, the FVRD is on track to process 81 requests by the end of December. So this is an increase of 11% over 2022. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is reports from Mayor.
I have nothing to report. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is reports from staff. Item A is report of Chief Administrative Officer regarding release of closed meeting resolutions.
Thank you, sir. This is to provide a report to council on the release of resolutions from closed meetings. The background is many subjects requiring the confidentiality of a closed meeting only require it for a limited period of time. It is important that local governments have a process in place to regularly review the information produced at closed meetings. Information that would no longer undermine the reason for discussing in a closed meeting should be released as soon as practicable. The following resolution has been released from the November 6th, 2023 closed council meeting. Recommendation in front of council this evening is that the following closed meeting resolution be received for information at the November 20th, 2023 regular meeting. That Andy Seidschlag be appointed as Fire Chief of the Harrison Hot Springs Fire Department.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Vidal. Discussion? Seeing none, call a question. All in favor? Nobody's opposed, passes. Next order of business, please.
The next item is item B, report of planning consultant regarding a rezoning amendment bylaw.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. Before I get started, I'd just like to say one thing. The standard operating practices is if council as a whole or as an individual requires additional information, then the process is to be referred back to staff with seeking information X, Y, and Z, as opposed to just trying to guess what the additional information is required. Having said that, the rezoning application in front of us tonight this includes consideration of the suggested referral agencies, the setting up of a public notification meeting, and the amendment bylaw proposes to change the current floor area ratio from 1.5 to 1.8, change the lot coverage from 75% to 89.39%, and change the building height from 15 meters to 17.61 meters. Upon a review of the village's official community plan, the site is within the village center designation and within the Lakeshore Development Permit area. As per the village's zoning bylaw, number 1115/2017, the site is zoned as village commercial and is bounded by Littlewood Avenue to the north, Hot Springs Road to the west, and Cedar Avenue to the south. The site is approximately 0.441 hectares in size, or 4,062 square meters, or 1.01 acres. And it currently contains a motel, 25 RV sites, a tent camping area, and a small restaurant. All existing buildings or structures are to be demolished when the development application is approved. The surrounding uses include restaurants, hotels, a gas station, and the Harrison Resort Mineral Pool. The site is relatively flat, is fully serviced, and is accessible by vehicles off of Hot Springs Road. The site has a historical marker attached to the fence indicating that this site was once the home of the Elliott Nursing Home in 1902. The owner wishes to retain the sign in the fence. It will be attached to the new development. The application is for a 76 multi-unit residential building. In order to achieve this, the applicant has to change the allowable floor area ratio from 1.5 to 1.8, change the current maximum lot coverage from 75% to 89.39%, and change the allowable maximum building height from 15 meters to 7.61 meters. The applicant is proposing to develop a private internal courtyard for the building's residence use only. The parkade entrance will be off of Cedar Avenue, and the pedestrian entrance will be off of Littlewood Avenue. The dwelling units will range in size from 596 square feet to 1,255 square feet. The required number of stalls for this development is 95, not 93. My apologies for that. With this number of required stalls, the number of disabled persons parking stalls required is 6. With the above ground parkade, the on-site requirements have been exceeded. And this is because they're offering to bring in 86 regular stalls, which includes the required 6 disabled persons parking stalls and 7 tandem stalls. And that works out to be first in, last out sort of concept, and it requires 2 cars. So with the tandem parking stalls, the total on-site parking is 100 vehicles, which exceeds the required 95. Public realm improvements as offered by the developer. As of the date of this report, none have been offered. Then we've got a summary report on just the use and the purpose of the floor area ratio. And it can be used for both environmental and the massing of the building. The purpose of the lot coverage is on page 34. The lot coverage is used as a planning tool to control the scale of development on a lot. With the current overall building footprint is controlled through the use of this tool. Within the village's current zoning bylaw is the following definition. Lot coverage means a building area of all of the buildings and structures that are allowed to cover lot and is expressed as a percentage figure of the total area of the lot. Then we talk about briefly about the purpose of the building height and what exemptions are applicable, and this includes communication towers, belfries and domes, flagpoles, elevator shafts, stair and hose towers. Some additional comments, the accessibility impact statement. In terms of accessibility, the project must meet the BC Building Code requirements for universal accessibility as per the Building Access Handbook dated 2014. The agency referrals, staff recommend that the following agencies have the draft bylaw referred to them and ask that they provide feedback on this development project. Number one is the Advisory Planning Commission. Number two is the Village's Fire Department. Number three is the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. Please note, Your Worship, that council can add or delete to this list as they see fit. Please note that all the referral agency comments must be received by staff prior to any public hearing being held, as these comments must be shared with the public during the public hearing. Some of the additional other reports that the applicant has provided has prepared a CEPTED report. The CEPTED Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design Review Report is dated May 23, 2023. The author of this report utilizes the 4 key principles of CEPTED as outlined below. This is the natural surveillance issues, any natural access control, territoriality, maintenance, and management. While the report has been finalized, staff at this time have not held any discussions with the developer to discuss the implementation of the CEPTED recommendations at this particular point in time, because we're just getting the process started if council goes with the staff recommendations. The title of this site has been reviewed and there are no flood covenants registered on this. The issue will need to be addressed prior to any actual development starting on this parcel of land. With respect to section 11 of the Village's Development Procedures Bylaw, council can require that the developer hold a public notification meeting. Staff concerns at this particular point in time with this project, there are 5 major concerns or issues with this application. The change of the lot coverage from 75% to 89.95% could impact the current stormwater drainage and direction of the stormwater flow, as well as the intensity of the development and the overall neighborhood character. The village can ask the developer to provide additional information on this issue after the holding of the public notification meeting or as council requires. With the change from the smaller scale tourist operation to a higher density residential use, the traffic flows and patterns may change along Hot Springs Road and the adjacent Cedar and Littlewood Avenue. The village can ask the developer to provide additional information on this subject or this issue after the holding of the public notification meeting or as council provides. Some of the concerns may be addressed after the draft bylaw is referred to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure for comment. Any community safety issues will need to be addressed when the fire department is able to review the overall application. There is no indication of any affordable housing units that may be made available within this development, and the lack of any public realm improvements. Overall, though, Your Worship, the project can be moved forward to determine what, if any, requirements the community may have about this development project. The staff recommendations are that staff be authorized to refer the zoning amendment application for 259 Hot Springs Road to the Advisory Planning Commission, the Harrison Hot Springs Fire Department, and the Ministry of the Ministry of Tourism and Infrastructure, and further that council requests the developer to set up a public notification meeting as per section 11 of the Village's Development Procedures Bylaw 1090/2016.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. Councillor Allen.
Microphone. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this back for further consideration. It was on the agenda about a month ago, and there was a shortage of information at that time. Although that particular package did contain a sketch of the building, an elevation that showed what the building might look like in the future. But Mr. Mayor, I have some concerns about the development being before council at this time, because I don't think that we have adequately explored the compliance with this plan as regards the official community plan and other documents that affect its development. I have to assume that this is going to be a strata titled development and that there will be condominium units which will be sold. And that, Mr. Mayor, makes it a subdivision. So we need to recognize at the start that this needs to comply with the subdivision bylaw. The subdivision bylaw covers quite a wide range of issues. And one of the primary issues in a subdivision bylaw is the transportation network. The subdivision bylaw says that the development has to provide adequate both vehicle and pedestrian transportation in the vicinity of the development. And the first thing that I see wrong with this particular project is that it seems to be, if I'm reading these letter size layout plans correctly, it seems to be that it is built all the way out to the four corners of the lot, on the lot line. And it seems that because the parking is going to be at street level, that will produce a blank wall on the three sides which face Cedar Avenue, Hot Springs Road, and Lillooet Avenue. And I think that's unfortunate. We can already see the effect of this if we look at the building, the Aqua something at the end of Block 1 on St. Alice Street. And I recall when the developer's architect or designer was questioned about that blank wall on Lillooet Avenue, he dismissed it as saying it doesn't matter because Lillooet Avenue is just the back alley. Our official community plan calls for us as a council to avoid having blank concrete walls at street level. So from an aesthetic consideration, putting blank concrete walls at street level on the three sides of this development would be, in my mind, an aesthetic disaster. What we really need in our downtown area, and I'm thinking about 20 and 30 years in the future, not necessarily today, what we really need on our streets is retail commercial on the street front. We've got a little bit of it at the Aqua building. They put commercial on the Esplanade, but nothing on St. Alice Street and nothing on Lillooet. And that's really unfortunate because instead of people being led to shop along the windows of St. Alice Street and go to Lillooet Avenue where there's more shopping, they look up that street and say, can't be anything back there. It's just a block, an alley. It's a blank wall. So I think that's unfortunate. And I think that the solution to that lies in the height of the building. The height of the building is proposed as being 10 feet above the bylaw requirement for height. And that could change dramatically if we were to stick to our bylaw height limit and require the developer to excavate the site and to put the parking below street level, as we have done with all of the other condos along on this block. When you do that and still maintain your flood construction level, you lower the height of the building and you avoid the blank wall going along. My second concern about traffic is that this is the most important intersection in Harrison Village. It is the continuation of Highway 9, which runs up Hot Springs Road and turns right onto Lillooet. And it's very much an entrance point to the village. The Hot Springs Road is a provincial highway, and we have limited ability to tell the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure how to design their roads. But in this case, Mr. Mayor, I would strongly recommend that we as a village take advantage and use the powers that are given to us under the subdivision control bylaw. And those powers give us the authority to demand that the developer grant to the village the extra land necessary to provide for good transportation. I'm not too concerned about that on the Cedar Street frontage or on the Lillooet Avenue frontage, but I am very concerned about it on the Hot Springs Road frontage. Because in front of the current building, and I believe their hedge and structures are right on the property line, in front of the current building, we've got a busy intersection with a lot of traffic turning right there, a bicycle lane. And all we have in front of the building at the moment is a 6-foot wide sidewalk. Now, my recollection of all of the transportation reports and the senior citizen reports and the walking community reports, and perhaps even our own OCP, is that we should be demanding that these sidewalks be wide enough to handle not just today's pedestrian traffic, but also the pedestrian traffic in the future. Our design target for the village has been 3,000 population, but already today, with the pedestrian traffic coming back and forward across the front of the Glencoe Motel, from the pub, from the resorts down Hot Springs Road, and from the overflow parking lot, we constantly see families and people having to step out into the traffic to pass each other in front of the Glencoe. So I am opposed to approving this development as presented unless we get at least a 12-foot sidewalk along Hot Springs Road. And I know that will mean that the developer will have to give up 6 feet of his frontage in order to accommodate it. But that's our job as a council, is to ensure that there's adequate space for public transportation in the future. While I'm dealing with the frontage on Hot Springs Road, I must also point out that this development is in contravention to our zoning bylaw. And that zoning bylaw requires that the corners of street intersections, and I'm talking now about the intersection between Hot Springs Road, Cedar Avenue, and Hot Springs Road and Lillooet Avenue, be left clear as a sightline triangle reaching 6 meters back from the corner post. That's 20 feet in each direction. It's supposed to be left blank with nothing higher than 30 centimeters or 1 foot. And that, Mr. Mayor, is necessary in all street corners to provide a sufficient sight line so that motorists, pedestrians, cyclists can all see each other clearly as they navigate around each other coming to the intersection. It is extremely important that that be enforced on this particular development, particularly on the corner of Lillooet Avenue and Hot Springs Road, which is our main intersection. So I'm slightly shocked and horrified that I have a presentation made to me of a development that contravenes our own zoning bylaw. From my perspective, when we, the council, pass a zoning bylaw and lay down an absolute rule that all corners must have the sightline intersection for public safety, that should be instruction to staff, consultants, and everybody else, that that's what we want to have happen. And it is their responsibility to see that it does happen. And it's not happening in this case. It's not happening. It hasn't happened in a lot of other developments, and it should have happened. But today I would like to lay down a line and say, the village has passed a bylaw that promised the public that we would have these open sightline triangles at street junctions, and we need to insist that this development does that according to the bylaw.
I think your 5 minutes is.
Sorry?
Your 5 minutes is almost up, Counselor.
Oh, sorry. Well, see, there's the problem. This is a big development, and I only get 5 minutes to talk about it. I get this on Friday afternoon, and I don't get full drawings and plans. I don't get a file to read that gives me any background. And it becomes very difficult, Mr. Mayor. But let me just briefly say the other things I'm concerned about are the aesthetics. I'm with King Charles on opposing ugly buildings. And with all due apologies and respect to the developer, the elevation that I saw for this building filled me with horror and dread. It is not an attractive building, in my opinion, and I think that we have a responsibility as a council to enforce our OCP that requires buildings to be attractive and be compatible with the neighborhood and not to be so absolutely incongruous. I don't believe that it's a proper use of one of the more valuable corners in Harrison Hot Springs for strictly residential use. And I don't believe that it should have a blank wall on 3 sides. And I do believe that it needs to be reviewed in terms of providing adequate sidewalks and other things. I also see nothing in this presentation that justifies the village council abandoning the promises we made to the community in the zoning bylaw and allowing more height, more density, and a change in the FSR, I think it was. So normally, if a developer wants to add more units to his project, the purpose of which obviously is to make money, and I'm all for them making money, but I want them to make money within the guidelines that we, the village, have set, not their guidelines. There's nothing in here that argues or justifies the council relaxing the zoning bylaw on height, on FSR, on building bulk, or anything else. I really think that the building should be reduced in size. The parking should be put underground or below street grade, and that the building design should be reviewed to produce something a lot more attractive than what has been presented so far. Harrison has been described as an architectural disaster area, and I unfortunately have to agree with that assessment in many cases. And I'd just like to say I'm very much opposed to the design I've seen for this building. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify something, unless my eyes are deceiving me, the new building on the corner of St. Alice and Esplanade, the Aqua, is 6 commercial units with 2 on St. Alice. So there is units on St. Alice for commercial. That was required by the council of the day.
Order, please.
Am I allowed to speak, Mr. Mayor, or not?
I called order.
Thank you. And personally, I'll say everything is as they say, love is in the eyes of the beholder. And to me, I think it's a fine looking building. It's being built there. There's a lot of criticism about the design. But going back to this actual one we're talking about, that with my discussions with engineers and developers, and I've been involved with all the units except in Laguna over the years, that with the water table that we have in Harrison, you cannot go down more than 1 or half a level. So getting 93, 95 cars with 2 or 3 levels in Harrison can't be done, because the amount of water, as Councillor Allen will recall, that was pumped out of what is now the Harrison Lake Hotel when they did the underground there. It went on for days pumping the water out before they could get the cement in there. So I think that is a difficult one. And of course, in this day and age, to go underground obviously costs a lot more money. This developer has put a proposal forward, which we asked for, to keep everything within the unit and not to use the streets for off-street parking. I just, if through you, Mr. Mayor Woods, to Mr. Cossey. Mr. Cossey, if this is passed this evening, it's just a beginning. There's a public hearing, am I correct? And the developer will be asked to have his own public consultation, and then it all comes back to council again?
That is correct, Your Worship. We are not approving anything at this particular point. We're not approving any setbacks. We're just getting the process started so we can collect the information and bring it back to this table so council can decide whether or not to proceed or seek additional information. So there's no murals been put up. There's been no setbacks on the roads at this particular point in time. This is just to get the process started.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Wood.
Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I'm going to refer to page 35 under Mr. Cossey's notes of concerns. I share Councillor Allen's concerns with the traffic at that particular intersection. It is indeed probably the busiest intersection in the village. I do note that it is possibly being referred to MOTI. But through you, Mayor Wood, to Mr. Cossey, I think it would be prudent to request that there be a traffic impact study done. And I'm not sure, and I'm asking you if that is something that MOTI takes into consideration when they're viewing the proposal.
Yes, I do take that into consideration, Your Worship, but usually it's part of the package that is submitted. And at this particular point in time, as mentioned earlier, we're not looking for approval. We're just looking to get started, and we can ask for this type of information after the public notification meeting. We can ask for whatever is required that the council as a whole has blessed. If you need more information on the stormwater issue, the traffic issue, whatever the sun and shade issue, whatever may come up through the public notification process.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey. I also am discouraged that at this time, and that may change, is that there has been no offer of community amenities. However, I am open into further negotiations with that as the process goes along. I would also really like to encourage the developer to consider providing the minimum number of affordable housing units. It has always been an issue here in the village, as it is throughout the province, but specifically here in Harrison with our tourism-based economy, often find it difficult to find housing and available housing for the employees of our restaurants, hotels. So I am in support of the recommendation, and I just put those concerns out, and hopefully the developer will take them under consideration. Thank you, Mayor Wood.
Thank you. Further discussion? Nothing, Councillor Jackson. Ready to call the questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes with Councillor Allen and the mayor opposed. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, can I just make one small observation?
No.
No, well, it's just not about this project. It's just about a general observation about our zoning bylaw.
Order, please.
Okay.
Order, please, Councillor. Item C, please.
The next item is report of corporate officer regarding 2024 regular council meeting schedule. Thanks. Thank you, Mayor Wood. The issue is to adopt the 2024 regular council meeting schedule. Pursuant to section 127 sub 1 of the community charter, council must prepare a schedule of dates, times, and places of regular council meetings for the next full calendar year. Section 3C of the village's council procedure bylaw reads as follows. Where the regular meeting day of council occurs on a statutory holiday, the regular meeting will take place on the day immediately following such holiday or another date set by council. The first meeting in January 2024 would therefore be scheduled to take place on January 2nd. Due to the closure of the village office and the Christmas and Boxing Day holidays in the week preceding that meeting, council has historically only met once during the month of January. Accordingly, attached to this report is a proposed 2024 regular council meeting schedule, and the recommendation today is that the proposed regular council meeting schedule for 2024 be approved as submitted.
So moved, Mayor Wood.
Moved by Counselor Facio, seconded by Counselor Allen. Discussion? Ready to call the question? All in favor? Nobody opposed? Passes unanimously. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is report of corporate officer regarding deputy mayor appointments.
Thank you. So as the mayor, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you, Mayor Wood. So the issue today is to appoint councillors as deputy mayor for 2024. Pursuant to section 130 sub 1 of the community charter, council must, in accordance with the village's council procedure bylaw, designate a councillor to act in the role of the mayor when the mayor is absent or otherwise unable to act, or when the office of mayor is vacant. Pursuant to our bylaw, deputy mayor nominations are made by the mayor and appointments are made by council.
Thank you. So the recommendation is that Counselor Allen be appointed as deputy mayor for 2024. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Allen. Discussion? Counselor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I just need some clarification. You're making a recommendation that Councillor Allen fulfill the role of deputy mayor for all of 2024. Is that correct?
Just 2024, correct? Just
Thank
a
you.
one-year term. Further discussion? Counselor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to point out that this was a system that I had established as mayor, breaking the council into quarters. And I did that a long time ago, and it has worked quite well up until now. But I think in the current circumstances, we should be honest about what the relationships are within council. And I think that I would support your recommendation and your nomination and will accept that nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready to call the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails with Counselor Vidal, Counselor Facio, and Counselor Jackson opposed. Next order of business, please. Next item, sorry.
The next item is report of Chief Administrative Officer regarding council liaison, municipal director, board, and committee member appointments.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The issue in front of council is to provide council with the information regarding the current list of council liaison, municipal director, board, and committee member appointments for both external agencies and internal committees. At the November 21st, 2022 regular council meeting, council appointed members of council as liaison, municipal directors, and board members to multiple external agencies. At the same meeting, council resolved to establish several internal committees after the resignation of a councillor in 2023. Council temporarily appointed members to fulfill the liaison appointments that were left vacant. Council voted to defer permanent appointments and the appointment of a member to the Accessibility Committee until after the 2023 by-election. The current council liaison appointments are attached as a spreadsheet to this report with the current vacancies and appointments requiring review shown in red font. Each appointment should be made by a separate motion, so I'll leave you, Mayor Wood, to read the motions as you wish.
Thank you. So first recommendation is that Counselor Allen be appointed as council liaison for Agassiz Harrison Healthy Communities. So moved by Counselor Vidal, seconded by Counselor Facio. Discussion on this? No discussion. Call the question. All in favor? No, nobody opposed. Passes unanimously. Next item is that the mayor would remain as the council liaison for the Agassiz Harrison Historical Society. Do I have a mover? Moved by Counselor Facio, seconded by Counselor Vidal. Discussion on that? Call the question. All in favor? Nobody's opposed. Passes unanimously. Next item is that Counselor Vidal remain as the council liaison for Community Futures, Community Futures North Fraser, moved by Counselor Vidal, seconded by Counselor Jackson. Discussion? Counselor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I briefly am going to decline this recommendation, and I would like to take the opportunity to put forward that Councillor Allen be the liaison for Community Futures North Fraser. Given his extensive background in business, I do think that he would be the ideal candidate for appointment to that board. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? So just to clarify, I remember a number of months back that Counselor Vidal there, and you were saying that your workload there, and you were wanting to consider dropping the Community Futures North Fraser. And I guess the question, I guess, really is this just came forth, I believe, 10 months ago, that a council member be part of the Community Futures North Fraser. And then I just found out that the community, and I could be wrong, but that the Community Futures North Fraser are also part of the Chamber of Commerce. So is there a reason that we need to duplicate this, or should this be something that council looks at dropping as a committee? Councilor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I would not like to see this board appointment drop. There is representatives council also from District of Kent and also from the City of Mission. Although it's not a large commitment, I think it is an important commitment. They do meet approximately once a month, and that can be done either in person in Mission or via Zoom. And I also do want to point out that Community Futures North is also a great supporter of and works with tourism. They were a supporter of the Lights by the Lake opening. So I do think it is important that there is representation on that board from one of our council members here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on? We'll get ready to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Nobody opposed. Motion passes unanimously. Next item, 4, is that Councillor Vidal remain as the council liaison for Corrections Canada Citizens Advisory Committee. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Allen. Sorry, did I see your hand, Councillor Jackson? Yes, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Nobody opposed. Passes unanimously. Next one is item 5. that Fraser Health be removed from the council liaison list as the liaison was appointed to receive updates during the COVID-19 pandemic. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Vidal. Discussion? Ready to call the question? All in favor? Nobody opposed? No. Motion passes unanimously. Next items, number 6, that mayor would be appointed to fulfill the role of municipal director for the Fraser Valley Regional District and Hospital Boards. And that Councillor Facio be appointed to fulfill the role of the alternate municipal director for the Fraser Valley Regional District. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by, I'm going to second it myself to put it on the table. And discussion. Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to vote in favor of the motion because I strongly believe that the proper place for the mayor, who is the representative of the village of Harrison Hot Springs, and is the person who is designated to speak for council, I believe that it's entirely appropriate that the mayor, like all of the other mayors, represent the municipality of Harrison on the Fraser Valley Regional District Board. In my terms as mayor and on the board, I found that the discussions that I could have with my fellow mayors about operational issues, intergovernment issues at the Regional District Board was invaluable in keeping Harrison Hot Springs in the loop and keeping Harrison up to speed on what was happening with the fast changing world of municipal government. And I just think that it's extremely important that Harrison be represented in that board by our mayor. And I also believe that it's important from a safety perspective, because a lot of the things that the Fraser Valley Regional District does relate to public safety, and the coordination of that is very important. And if our mayor is not part of that emergency planning and the other long-term planning, I think that we're not well served and not well respected at the Regional District Board. There's no question in my mind that the voice of the mayor in person carries a lot more weight when you're lobbying provincial, federal, or even regional district government for something. And unless we have our mayor on that board and in the front line on our behalf, I think that the village's interests are substantially weakened. So to my mind, that is the proper place for you as the mayor to be, and that is as our representative on the Regional District Board, and that's why I will vote in favor of this motion.
Thank you. You finished, Councilor? Any further discussion? Ready to call the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails with Councillor Jackson, Councillor Vidal, and Councillor Facio opposed. Next item shows that Councillor Jackson be appointed to fulfill the role as municipal director for the Fraser Valley Library Board for the 2023 to the 2024. Or just orders, just hold on. That Councillor Facio be appointed to fulfill the role as alternate municipal director for the Fraser Valley Regional Library Board for the same period of 2023 to 2024. So moved by Councillor Facio, moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Vidal. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Nobody opposed, passes unanimously. Okay, number 8, that Councillor Allen be appointed as the council liaison to the Harrison Agassiz Chamber of Commerce Moved by Counselor Bidell, seconded by Counselor Vascio. Discussion. Call the question, all in favor? Nobody opposed, passes unanimously. And item 9. Is any counselor willing to put their name forward to be appointed as the council committee member to the Accessibility Committee? Counselor Fascio?
I'll give it a shot, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Just to make it interesting, I'll give it a shot too.
Can we put 2 on the committee?
I'll be happy to serve as the alternate.
Well, I know we need some more members on the committee, so that may be a good thing to have 2 council members on it. Let's go with alternate. So I'm gonna go with Counselor Fascio. Gonna move with Counselor Fascio, be appointed as the council committee member to the Accessibility Committee with Counselor Allen as the backup. Do I have a mover on that? Moved by Counselor Allen, seconded by Counselor Jackson. Discussion. Call the question, all in favor? Nobody opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item, please.
The next item is report of our community services manager regarding Spirit Trail maintenance.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. At the October 16th regular council meeting, council passed the following motion: that staff be directed to report back to council at the next regular meeting of council with recommendations on the prescribed treatment of the Spirit Trail as per the 2017 Wildfire Master Plan, not to exceed $30,000 and to be funded internally. A related motion was also passed at that same meeting, that the utilization of the Fire Smart funding include the prioritization of the creation of a community wildfire resiliency plan, detailed fuel management prescriptions, and the completion of prioritized fuel management. Staff have been in contact with the Fraser Valley Regional District as they are responsible for the management of the Spirit Trail, a 2.2-kilometer loop which is located within the East Sector lands. The FVRD does not currently have any plans to perform fuel management. However, they would be supportive of initiatives in the area to reduce the risk of fire. The FVRD has connected village staff with a representative from the province as the East Sector lands are Crown property granted to the village. Staff reached out to the province seeking their support for this initiative. At the time of this report, staff is awaiting a response from the province. Staff has also been in contact with the registered professional forester regarding Fire Smart and fuel management initiatives within the village. The registered professional forester advised that the creation of a community wildfire resiliency plan would revisit the recommendations made in the 2017 Wildfire Master Plan and would inform priority fuel treatment areas. Furthermore, there may be additional funding opportunities available through organizations such as the Forest Enhancement Society of BC and other government funding streams. The Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports Guide provides some estimates on costs for fuel treatment planning at $450 an acre, along with new baseline fuel management treatment costs at $13,500 per hectare, and offsite debris disposal from new fuel management tasks estimated at $1,600 per hectare. The recommendations to council are that staff be authorized to seek quotes for the development of a community wildfire resiliency plan while awaiting the results of the Fire Smart grant funding application, and that staff be authorized to move forward with fuel treatment for the Spirit Trail once a community wildfire resiliency plan with current up-to-date recommendations for fuel management is completed.
Who moved, Mayor Wood?
I'm gonna just split those 2 for discussion. So the first one is, again, that staff be authorized to seek quotes for the development of a community wildfire resiliency plan while awaiting the results of the Fire Smart grant funding application. Moved by Counselor Fascio, was it correct? Seconded by Counselor Jackson. Discussion. Counselor Allen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm very much in favor of moving ahead to reduce our wildfire hazards and reduce the risk of a conflagration. Under the first paragraph of discussion, though, I'm concerned about something that's written here on line 6 that says the East Sector lands are Crown property granted to the village. I don't believe that's correct. As far as I know, the only Crown grant that we have is the 80 acres that lies along Macomb Drive at the north end of Macomb Drive. The other 240 acres, I suppose, the 4 80-acre blocks or the 3 80-acre blocks, I believe is still Crown land. And I've asked the question before, and I'm going to ask it again. Does the Fraser Valley Regional District have some kind of a tenure agreement with Crown Lands for the use of part of that Crown land for the Spirit Trail? Because as far as I know, we would not have the right to grant them any permission to be in there. They would have to get that from the province because we don't have any tenure in that area. So that is a legal matter, I suppose. It needs clarification. And I ask the question because our own bylaws state that anybody who is an occupier of property, being an owner or a tenant or a lessee, is required to keep that property in a safe condition. And if in fact the regional district has a tenure on the Crown land, there may be two things that apply. First of all, the tenure itself may require them to keep it in safe condition. And secondly, if it doesn't, our bylaws could require the regional district to maintain the property that they are using in Harrison Village. So until that question is adequately answered, I'm not comfortable in voting on this at all because it may be that the cost and expense rightly belongs with the regional district and not with the village of Harrison Hot Springs.
I just want to comment on that, and then I'm going to pass it off to our Chief Administrative Officer to respond on that one further. It's my understanding, though, with the new emergency management plan, or sorry, the government rules, the act, I guess, that's coming into place, is that all of the Crown land will now become the responsibility of the village for fire smart retention. So irregardless of the answer to that, but I'll just, if our Chief Administrative Officer wants to comment on that, please.
So there's a few things at play here now. Throughout this process, the FVRD actually encouraged us to contact the Crown in order to get permission and have an open discussion. Further to the agreement, whether this supports Councillor Allen's comments or not, we do have, it does state that the regional district shall be the solely responsible for trail management, operations and security decisions, and shall perform those services necessary to ensure the park is operated, maintained, and managed with a standard of care, skill, and diligence normally provided in the performance of work of a similar nature as contemplated in this agreement. Now, we're talking about the trails themselves. I don't believe that this would speak to fuel management or anything further beyond just the trail itself.
Thank you. Did that, Councillor Allen, did that?
My concern, Mr. Mayor, is that while there may be a fire hazard that exists within the east sector or even within our own 80 acres of land, by inviting the public in and creating the trails, I think that dramatically increases the risk. Most of the other Crown land, including our own 80 acres, does not have any trails in it, and the public isn't invited in. And therefore, there are less people in there, and there's less risk of somebody dropping a cigarette or a roach or whatever they're doing in there and igniting a fire. So I think that the presence of the regional district itself does, in fact, increase the fire risk quite dramatically by putting people in the woods. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before, I'm just gonna comment on it here. This resolution, I mean, this was put forth actually by myself a month back. So the intent of this resolution, and maybe that'll help clarify some of it, was as we wait for the approval process for our resiliency plan and our community fire smart coordinator and everything else, was, I mean, that could take a year and a half, 2 years from now. So the idea was to clean out an area that is well used in the village here, which is that Spirit Trail. So the general thought at the time, I personally walked through that trail with a professional forester, and there's a number of trees that have fallen over the years, and they've just been pushed off the side. But that is actually, according to the forester, is of concern. So what the intent again of this was to with the approval of a forester, and I think it was a 10-meter pathway all along Spirit Trail, that would be cleared out to the requirements again by a professional forester. And the idea was that we would be able to do that at through this winter or this spring. And that Spirit Trail, again, as everyone realizes, is a well used trail system in the village here, was to have that as an example, so that when we did get to our when our grants were approved and we went into a I guess going to call it a full scale forest or wildfire management plan. Again, this was just to get it going. So there was $30,000 maximum that was allotted, I think, for this particular one. So again, the $30,000 was intended for the village to hire a contractor to basically clear 10-meter pathway along Spirit Trail. That was what the intent of it is. So we've kind of switched gears here a bit, and I guess this report, and there's not the next report, but 2 reports down, which comes up with the Fire Smart program update. So both of these kind of are similar in each way. But this particular one here was not to do with the UBCM grant, and nothing to do with the Fire Smart program application part committee. Does that help? Is there further discussion on that, Councillor Passio? I think you had a.
Yeah, you're correct. I'm in favor of the recommendation, Mayor Wood, but just like to point out, I already read out this evening the policy from the regional district regarding how they patrol and how they look after that area. Prior to the regional district taking this over, that was always well used by the public in Harrison Hot Springs, especially when our famous designer started putting up all the masks along there. So it's always been used, and volunteers used to do the best they can with some filling holes and that. But since they took it over, there was a process they had to go through the provincial government, First Nations, took nearly 3 years, and also a grant they received towards the start of the cleanup there. So it did go through a process with the provincial government regarding the lease part of it. That will have to be confirmed by our staff, but it was a lengthy process that they went through, and it's created something that the village has been waiting for many years, and it's well used. The first season, 6 months, 6,000 people went through that park when it first opened. Thank you, Mayor Wood.
So I just want to clarify that to Councillor Passio. You said that you're good with the recommendation here, but the concern with this recommendation is that staff be authorized, and that's why I broke it up. So the second part here is that staff be authorized to move forward with the fuel treatment of Spirit Trail once a community wildfire resiliency plan was current, up to date. The intent of this was to clean up Spirit Trail before we waited, or as we were waiting for the resiliency plan and the recommendations of the other parts. This was an expedited part of the Spirit Trail wildfire plan. So I think it's a bit, it seems like I don't know if we're saying the same thing, but I want to make sure that we get this right. Okay. But number one is still just the application. And I want to make sure that we get this, get the wildfire plan in place. The original motion, and I just want to jump, I'm going to jump to the next one. Sorry, two further down, because it has the rest of the motion on it. And the intent of all of this is that staff retain a registered professional forester with a fee not to exceed $10,000 to work with the fire chief and staff to complete the application to the UBCM for the Fire Smart Community funding. I know this one here is coming up for discussion, but I still believe it's so tied into this one here. The first thing, I mean, the resolution again of council was to get a professional forester. I don't know if staff have got the professional forester, or from what I can tell, it appears that we've just been in conversation with a forester. I want to make sure that we're not here 30 years later trying to work on an evacuation route. So we had the mayor of Kimberly come here and did a presentation on their wildfire interface fire plan. And I mean, it was a great PowerPoint presentation, but you know, he was quite clear on it. It stayed out of the administration of staff or politics. It was run by the fire department, professionals that are trained in the fire system. So it didn't come through, and I mean this is absolutely no disrespect to any other staff member, but this is something which is totally coordinated and managed through the fire department, and it is the fire department that's the key component to it here, because we seem to go around in circles on a lot of things. I recognize we're a small village. We don't have all the expertise that everyone in a larger place has. So we try to make do and try to make something work the best we can. But I think that with this last summer that we had, with the fear of wildfire, interface fires, I can remember when the dry lightning came through here, and I didn't sleep very well for that day at all. We ended up having 5 fires, I think, that were spotted within the next day. I think everybody in this community here is on edge with the interface fires and our evacuation route. I'm not going to get into our evacuation route today. We're going to be talking about that on Friday in our committee of the whole meeting. But we seem to keep getting stalled and things don't get done. So I really want to make sure that we take the lead of this thing right from the beginning, so that we can get this right, again, right at the beginning. So I can't support that staff be authorized. Like I can't support the recommendation, but I would like staff to, maybe I'm going to move that we refer this back to staff to come back with a further recommendation. So I'm going to put that motion on the table. So I'm going to move that both those recommendations be referred back to staff to come back to the next meeting of council. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Allen. Further discussion, Councillor Allen?
Just one small point of information, Mr.
Sorry,
Mayor.
I meant
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Jackson, sorry.
Okay, so
Thank you, Your Worship. My concern is we're going to be sitting here next July, and we're going to be talking about this. I mean, staff have made recommendations. We have excellent staff. Let them go and do their work. I mean, we're talking, and no action. Deferring this so staff can come back with another report doesn't make any sense. They know what they're doing. Let's get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Allen and then.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a small point of information. My understanding is that the highest fire risk within the Fraser Valley Regional District's East Sector Recreation Area is not actually the trails, but a small pocket of high-risk fuel just to the north of the trail entrance and to the south of the Miami River. And I think that should be the priority. While I agree that clearing a strip alongside the trail on each side would be good, I think that the reports that we've had through the summer identifying the high-risk areas had one hot spot, and I think that needs to be addressed in this process. Thank you.
Counselor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I just want to echo Councillor Jackson's comments. I have full faith in our staff, and that should they choose to incorporate and include, which I hope they do, our new fire chief or representatives from the fire department on coordinating that. But I don't want to see us wait anymore. I think we knew we need to move forward with it. So I will be supporting the recommendations. And further to your comments, Mayor Wood, on the new Emergency Act, it has gotten royal assent, so it is now in effect. And what will happen is, as a result of that act being passed, then the ministry will be looking at regulations which do follow the intent of the act. So thank you.
So I'm just going to respond to that. So just so that Counselor Vidal and Counselor Jackson understand, what you're doing is saying we're not going to be doing anything to Spirit Trail for this next summer season. We're going to be waiting a minimum of 2 years before we do anything. That's what this said. And this is what I want to make sure that council understands what it is that this says here. It says that we will be waiting for the wildfire resiliency plan. That could take 2 years. That's 2 years to get a plan. And meanwhile, we've done absolutely nothing. The whole motion, the original motion of this was specifically to fast track Spirit Trail. So we would have that area and in some adjacent areas up to $30,000. That would be done for this next season. So again, if we go with this here, we will not have that work done. So the motion on the table was to refer this back to staff to clarify this so that council are all on board and understand it. So it was moved by myself and it was seconded by, I believe, Councillor Allen. And further discussion on that, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails with Councillor Vidal, Councillor Facio, and Councillor Allen opposed. Sorry, Councillor Jackson opposed. Thank you. So we're going to go back to the recommendation here is that staff be authorized to seek quotes for the development of a community wildfire resiliency plan while awaiting the results of the Fire Smart grant application. That was originally moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any further discussion on that one? Going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes with Councillor Allen and the mayor opposed. And the other one is that that's staff be authorized to move forward with the fuel treatment for Spirit Trail once a community wildfire resiliency plan with current up-to-date recommendation for fuel management is completed. Moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Further discussion on that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion. I would like to remove the requirement to wait for the resiliency plan so that we can move ahead and deal with that hot spot now before next summer. That's my amendment to the motion.
So
I
you,
need a seconder.
do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Counselor Jackson. Discussion? Counselor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you to our community services manager, is it a requirement to have a community wildfire resiliency plan before applying for any grant for fuel management, or can we not wait for that? Thank you.
Through your worship to Councillor Vidal, it's not a requirement. I think that part of where this report came from was that council was also expressing concerns with the wildfire protection plan that we had in place when it was from and data in that. But if the direction from council is to take $30,000 funded internally and to see where that will get us, then we can definitely explore that option and come back with a report on what that $30,000 treatment in Spirit Trail would look like. For the other grants that haven't been applied for yet, I believe that the current wildfire plan that we have would be sufficient to look for those other funding opportunities as well.
Yeah, further discussion on that? Ready to call the,
I think we need to vote on the amendment
Yeah,
first.
yeah, I just want to make sure there's any further discussion on the amendment. So the motion is for the amendment. The staff be authorized to move forward with the fuel treatment for Spirit Trail without a community wildfire resiliency plan in place. And call the question. All in favor of the amendment? Nobody's opposed. Passes unanimously. Do I have to go back to the main?
Yeah, now I vote on the main motion as amended.
Thank you. So because I split the two, so that okay, so we're amendment, sorry, that staff be authorized to move forward with the fuel treatment for the Spirit Trail once a community wildfire resiliency plan, with current up-to-date recommendation for fuel management is completed as amended. Do I have a mover?
Just for clarification, my motion was to remove all that requirement for the resiliency plan and just to move ahead and get her done.
That was my understanding. I mean, that was what the amendment was, but now I've gone back to the main motion. So the main motion is what was just read. So now we're saying the main motion as amended. So do I have a mover for moved by, moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Allen. Further discussion on this? Call the question. All in favor? Nobody's opposed. Passes unanimously. Okay, next item, please.
The next item is report of Community Services Coordinator regarding Community to Community Grant Program.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. The Union of British Columbia Municipalities has a grant funding program available to support community to community forums with a grant of up to $10,000. In 1997, UBCM and the First Nations Summit jointly organized the first province-wide C2C forum. This event brought together First Nations and local governments across BC to discuss common goals and opportunities for joint action. After this forum, it was decided that regional C2C forums should be supported. The Village's regional C2C forum consists of representatives from Staylis, District of Kent, Harrison Hot Springs, and other local nations. The C2C forum meets approximately every 3 months. The location of the meetings rotates with each representative hosting. The grant can be used to fund the C2C coordinator position and cover administrative costs, supplies, and other meeting expenses. The recommendation is that staff submit a grant application of up to $10,000 to UBCM's Community to Community Grant Program to support hosting a community to community forum meeting in the Village of Harrison Hot Springs.
So move, Mayor Wood.
Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Vidal. Discussion. Call the question, all in favor? Nobody's opposed, passes unanimously. Next item, please.
The next item is report of Community Services Manager regarding Fire Smart Program update.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. This report is to provide an update on the status of the Village of Harrison Hot Springs recognition as a Fire Smart community. As per the following motion passed at the October 16/18 regular council meeting. Not going to read them all out, but I'll just touch on the top one. That is that staff be authorized to begin the process of having the village recognized as a Fire Smart neighborhood. So the process of being recognized as a Fire Smart neighborhood begins at the community level. The Village of Harrison Hot Springs has not had an active local Fire Smart representative since the retirement of Fire Inspector Thomas Redden earlier this year. Currently, the closest LFR is located in Kent. Over the last few months, the Community Services Manager has taken several courses, including Fire Smart 101, Fire Smart Wildfire Risk Reduction, and the local Fire Smart Representative Training course, and has now earned a certification as a local Fire Smart representative for the village. The first step is for residents to contact their LFR and advise them that they're interested in having the village recognized as a Fire Smart community. The next step will be to form a Fire Smart neighborhood committee. So we'll need neighborhood champions to recruit other residents to create a Fire Smart committee. This committee is led by the neighborhood champions with the support of the LFR. This is a neighborhood committee, not a council committee. That will be followed by step 3, which is when neighborhood site visits can be conducted and a neighborhood wildfire hazard assessment form can be completed. This will be done by the LFR and who will then present a report to the neighborhood committee. Step 4 is the creation of a Fire Smart neighborhood plan, which is prepared by the Fire Smart committee with assistance from the LFR. The plan must contain proposals for Fire Smart events and a minimum of 3 Fire Smart mitigation action items. The plan is reviewed and approved by the Fire Smart Neighborhood Committee. Step 5 is to implement Fire Smart events, as outlined in the Fire Smart Neighborhood Plan. These can range from information sessions to work bee wildfire hazard cleanup sessions within neighbors' yards. Fire Smart events are mandatory for recognition and renewal. There are volunteer sign-up and tracker sheets that should be used to record neighborhood involvement. At the October 16/18 regular council meeting, a further motion was passed that staff be directed to liaise with the fire department, the emergency program coordinator, emergency support services, and emergency management BC to organize a Fire Smart open house to be held at Memorial Hall approximately the first week of November. Staff have been in contact with Emergency Management BC and BC Wildfire Service regarding the open house. This open house could contribute to the village's recognition as a Fire Smart community. However, it must be organized in conjunction with a Fire Smart committee in order to do so. Staff is recommending that the Fire Smart open house be held in March 2024 instead of this November in order to allow time for a Fire Smart neighborhood committee to be established. Additionally, holding the event closer to wildfire season ensures that Fire Smart practices can be immediately implemented by residents. The next step would be to apply for recognition. And so that would be for the Village of Harrison Hot Springs to be recognized as a Fire Smart community. The application would be completed by the neighborhood champion or Fire Smart committee with assistance from the LFR. And then this recognition status does need to be renewed yearly. The recommendation listed below is that the Fire Smart program update report be received for information, and that the Fire Smart open house originally planned to be held in November be deferred to March 2024 to allow for the creation of a Fire Smart neighborhood committee and for the event to contribute to the village's recognition as a Fire Smart community, and that the community services manager / local Fire Smart representative be authorized to put out an expression of interest for a Fire Smart neighborhood committee and assist interested residents in the formation of the committee.
Thank you. Do I have a moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Passio? Discussion? Councillor Passio?
Thank you, Mayor. We just wanted to recognize the excellent report from our Community Services Manager. I love the program and the commitment of the neighborhood champions. I originally came up with this open house situation, but she's done a better job than me, and I'm happy about that. And it's just great the way that I really, this is going to be a great program for our community to get our residents involved in their own committee. Great job. Thank you very much. I fully support it.
Any further discussion? Councillor Allen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think this is great, but I'd also like to see our fire department, perhaps under the leadership of our new fire chief, focus on their ability to fight wildfires and to get off the blacktop if necessary. And I think that should happen in conjunction with the committee. It'll be good morale booster for the people volunteering for the committee to know that our fire department themselves are equipped, able, and trained to go into the woods if necessary to douse the fire. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a question to our Chief Administrative Officer. So on the motions that were resolutions from about a month ago, and I just want clarification. So the staff retain a registered professional forester with a fee not to exceed $10,000 to work with the fire chief and staff to complete the application for the UBCM for the Fire Smart Community Funding. Have we retained a professional registered forester?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm gonna pass this to Christy, our Community Services Manager, because she has contact.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Yes, I have been working with a registered professional forester. He has not required any fees as he's supporter of the program. So no costs have been incurred right now.
So my next question then is, so is the application been submitted then?
We were able to squeeze in for the 2023 deadline, so that one was submitted with his support. And then we'll be working on the 2024 grant funding application.
So is that for all of the, was there 4 or 5 different ones from the UBCM? Or are you talking about just the 200,000 maximum per year?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, the Fire Smart is the $2,000 per year is what they have it set at right now. 200,000.
200,000. So have we not applied then for the other grants for the other? I believe there was about 4 other sections of the interface fire.
The other UBCM grants were on a different variety of programs, not specific to wildfires.
Yeah, there was one for a Fire Smart coordinator for $30,000 a year for 2 years. There was another one for, it was all to do with the Fire Smart. I guess you're just kind of hearing my concern is that to make sure that we've got it right from the beginning here. And I just, you know, I don't mean any disrespect to staff in any which way, but the resolution which was passed, which was for staff to retain the professional forester to work with us on all of these applications, not just one application. We want to get the whole process done here. I don't think, I mean, I hear Councillor Facio talking about, you know, we have an open house with some tables out with some pamphlets and with some stuff like this. We need to do some real work. I want to get these forests cleaned. I want to get this evacuation route done. I want to make sure our fire department is trained. I want to make sure the fire department has the right training. I've got all kinds of concerns and questions. And I don't want to just be sitting here next summer and we have pamphlets and going to push the burden over to the residents, and it's the residents that have to clean up their properties. We really need to take control of this, and I think I've made my point strong tonight, but I really hope that we engage and hire a professional forester to assist us with that. No other further discussion, call a question, then all in favor. Opposed, Mayor opposed, motion passes. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business would be bylaws, but there are none before council tonight. So moving on to new business. Item C, new business from Councillor Allen regarding policy 1.11 amendment.
Councillor Allen, did you want to read that out, or I can read it out for you?
I can read it out, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that whereas the village's disposal of surplus items and equipment policy 1.11 permits disposal by tender, and whereas the sealed tender process which has been used in the past has included the opening of bids secretively rather than in public, and whereas the sealed tender process has been unfair to buyers and has not produced the best possible financial returns for the village, therefore be it resolved that policy 1.11 be amended by A, removing the option to use any tender process, and by B, limiting all such disposals to a public auction to be conducted by the Chief Executive Officer, thus ensuring complete transparency and maximum value for village assets being sold off. So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes with Councillor Vidal and Facio opposed. Next item, please.
The next item is item D, new business from Councillor Allen regarding offer of fire truck.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My recommendation is that whereas the village has a surplus fire truck which is up for disposal, and whereas the Agassiz Harrison Search and Rescue Organization is in need of an equipment truck while waiting for a new truck to be delivered, therefore be it resolved that the village offer the Agassiz Harrison Search and Rescue the use of the village's Volvo fire truck until such time as their new truck is put in service, after which the Volvo will be sold by auction. So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? I'll second that for discussion. Discussion, Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I don't feel I have enough information to warrant any of a decision on my part, and through you to our CAO, a couple of questions. Has there been any formal request from Search and Rescue for use of the vehicle?
To my knowledge, no. I believe the vehicle they're waiting for is, it looks like a pickup truck with a unit, and for them to be able to store their equipment and stand, and the fire truck would certainly not meet that need.
Great, thank you. Do you have any indication of when their new piece of equipment would be arriving?
I'm hearing from the crowd it's March. I honestly don't know. I apologize.
Thank you. I'm not in support of this recommendation, number one, because as our CAO indicated, it's not the appropriate truck for search and rescue. And I'm also concerned about what state our old fire truck is in, and issues of liability and insurance. And now that I've heard that it's, March, when hopefully new search and rescue vehicle will arrive, I just think it's too much of a risk. And considering that a formal offer has never been put forward, then I will be voting against the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Facio, and then Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I got some information this afternoon that they're having a new chassis built to go on the existing truck, which is going to take about 5 weeks. They have managed to, they're in the process of getting another truck temporarily, and that's a definite no on the fire truck. That would be of no use to them whatsoever. Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Harrison Agassiz Search and Rescue, which is a very valuable resource in the community, particularly for our visitors who keep getting lost in the woods, have run into an equipment problem in that their new truck is arriving after their old truck, I believe, has to be stripped off to move all the fittings onto it. They only need a truck for about a month, and they put out a public appeal to anybody who has a truck that may serve the purpose to please come forward and try and help them over this one period. Their need is for a truck that will carry equipment from their headquarters in Agassiz to their muster point, which can be at the boat launch or somewhere else in the area, and to use that as a base by which the SAR personnel gather up their equipment and attend to the rescue that they're conducting. I'm not suggesting that this be a long-term thing. All I'm saying is that we have an appeal from one of the organizations which we should be supporting to borrow a truck for a short period of time. They talked about mid-December to mid-January, a month, although it can work longer. And we have a truck sitting in the yard that is running, that is full of compartments and storage and deck space on top, and room for personnel in the cab and in the fireman's bench at the back. And it's not ideal for them on a long-term basis, but if they needed a truck to get themselves and their equipment to a rescue scene, it would be perfectly suitable to do that. So all I'm saying is that we, as the Village of Harrison Hot Springs, should reach out to SAR and say, if you need a truck, we're prepared to lend you our truck. All the petty details about insurance and liability and whatever can be dealt with if they find the truck is to be suitable. And if you decide that you're not going to offer it to them, by all means, don't offer it to them. But I think that would be churlish at best. We have a responsibility to support SAR in any way that we can. This costs us nothing and could, in fact, help them out of a spot. Thank you.
No, Councillor Pastor, you've already had a break at this. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails with Councillor Fidel, Councillor Facio, and Councillor Jackson opposed. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is questions from the public.
Do you have any questions from the public, please?
Alan Garneau from Schooner Drive or Schooner Place. I have a question that relates back to the minutes that covered the report from Ron Poole to the council. Among the recommendations is a recommendation that refers to the social media policy. I think, I don't have the pages with me, but I think it's policy 1.32. I cannot get that policy. There's nothing on the website that allows me to access that. I have no idea what it says. I don't see why I shouldn't know what that policy says. So the question is, this policy, and I suspect many other policies, should be accessible to the public. And I'm wondering if there's a good reason why we shouldn't have access to these policies. So that's my question.
It's a great question. I'll let the Chief Administrative Officer answer that one.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. The policies that we have are council policies. I'm sure if there was a request for a specific policy, I'm sure we could share that with you. I'm assuming that council doesn't oppose us sharing a policy to you if you wish?
I'm going to comment on that. I would hope that all of the commissions, you as yourself, Ellen, as a member of the Advisory Planning Commission, you should have copies of those of those policies.
I shouldn't have to get access because of a position that I happen to hold. And I still, with respect to your answer, sir, I think that there needs to be an examination of why the policies aren't generally, I know you're saying they're council policies. Your bylaws are council bylaws too, but we have access to them. So my question is, this policy, there may be some policies, there's a good reason why the public shouldn't have access. This isn't one of them, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Good. Thank you. Go ahead if you wish. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. These policies were actually adopted at an open council meeting, so we could put them onto the website. I have no problem doing that. We're in the process of kind of I have to apologize. Our website is creating challenges. I was talking to a resident earlier. They're having a tough time trying to find where our agendas are. So we're trying to streamline the process. With that information, I'd be happy to, staff will be happy to put those online.
I sincerely appreciate your answer, and I think it'll be a good move, and I apologize in a sense because you've got a lot on your plate. But to me, if there's reference to a policy that applies to recommendations, that I think Mr. Poole's recommendations are very serious, we should be able to get it without having to ask to be sent out like a freedom of information or whatever. So, thank you.
Councillor Allen has something.
On a point of information, Mr. Mayor, the policy manual used to be in a red binder, and it was at the front desk, and it was open to the public. And all anybody had to do was walk into the village office and say, "Can I please see the policy manual?" They're like bylaws without the same enforcement provisions, and they're guidance for council and staff as to how to run the village. So I think that it's perfectly appropriate, and I would suggest that I was provided with one. Thank you, Amanda. When I took my office as a councillor, and I believe that the same policy manual should be provided to the public at the front counter if they want to see them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really finished, but as I said, surely it's in digital format, and I should be able to access it from my home on the website like other things. And I don't feel I should have to make that trip to the office to ask for the red binder. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon me, I'm going to jump in here while it's quick and before I lose my nerve. Teresa Almost, 641 Schooner Place. Okay, in regards to my running, there is a question in here, bear with me. In regards to my running for the by-election of 2023, I will just say that excuse me.
Order.
You have no clue what I'm going to say, and I
Order, please. Order, please.
During my campaign, I actually had to call the RCMP. My signs had been vandalized repeatedly, and I was intimidated and stalked a total of 4 times. When I made my call to the RCMP, I was basically told by the officer along the lines of, "This is sleepy little Harrison Hot Springs. This kind of thing doesn't happen." When I connected the dots as to some of the events that had been happening with the politics here, I was given a little bit more understanding, and I was heard out. However, this ties in with the situation with the mole. I think it's very disrespectful as a whole to imply that it's a current member of council or previous member of council, and to automatically put them in a blanket situation that they are responsible. There are a number of individuals that I've spoken to during my campaign that were highly angry at a certain member that was now elected, and basically they made my campaign very difficult. So I think you need to look further than just the people sitting in the room here, because the mayor essentially gave you clues as to who they are. So I think attacking council in such a manner as this further erodes trust in our weakened council as a whole. And it also puts our current staff in another situation where they're having to contend with these letters and anger and hatred and whatnot. So we all need to take a deep breath and to put our egos aside when we come to this table and respect each other, even if we wouldn't have a beer with the other person, we wouldn't like them or whatnot. We need to all individually examine our consciences and get on with business and let the RCMP do their job. That's their job. It's not the job of an elected official to play detective. However, based on my circumstances, something would need to be done, because if anyone ever is going to consider running for any position in this village, they need to feel that they have an equal opportunity and are going to be safe in their own community. Since I've lived here almost 4 years, it has been one of the most horrific experiences of my life. I'm a very tough individual. I've gone through a lot, and I can empathize with some of your circumstances, Mayor Wood. But if I had the $600,000, I'd be gone on a beach with Mr. Jackson somewhere else. I've got the same idea. I'd be gone too. So the only thing keeping here right now is some little glimmer of hope that things could be better. And that is actually why I ran for the by-election. So let's all take a deep breath. Remember the community spirit that we had November the 18th with the lights on the lake, and put your petty grievances aside from how many years, decades back, personal, whatever you've got going on, and get on with business. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions on Zoom?
If there are any questions on Zoom, please use the raise hand button.
Just. Oh, just.
Not sure that we have any on Zoom, Your Worship.
Okay. I'm actually, there's a call for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Allen. Discussion, call the question, all in favor. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.